Hi.
Hi, Corey. Corey, do you mind, I just the last question because they changed. I just want to know: is it eerie? Is it so hard for you to like watch those scenes where you visit the cemetery?
Yeah. Well, it's all hard for me. I mean, like, you know, I don't know if you've dealt with a loss that's that
My
close
brother.
to you.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, you know, first of all, the difference between like a sibling or like a person in your family is that like, I mean, not only was Corey a brother to me in every sense of the word, other than blood, which I think we even cut ourselves at one point and did the little blood brother thing. But beyond that, I mean, he's a celebrity. So when you lose somebody that's a celebrity, you know, it's on the front of every newspaper, it's on every TV show, every time you turn around, and every time I walk down the street, somebody who's trying to be nice comes up to me and says, "Hey man, sorry about your friend. Hey man, sorry about your loss. Hey man, sorry about your brother." You know, and it's like, I appreciate the kind gesture, but understand that like when I go out, I really don't want to be thinking about my friend's death every time I walk out the door. You know, so yeah, it is a bit frustrating. And the other thing is that of course I have, you know, posters and memorabilia and stuff all over my house. So every time I walk downstairs and I, you know, walk past my game room, it's like there's a giant poster of the two Coreys, or there's, you know, License to Drive, or there's Lost Boys, or, you know, these things. So it's really hard. And what happens is every single day of my life, there's not a day since he's been gone that has passed that I haven't thought, "Hey man, that was really funny what happened last night. I gotta call Corey and tell him," oh shit. Or, you know, "Oh, you know, I have this great idea, man. You know, Corey and I could do that." "Oh no, we can't." You know, and it's really, really hard and sad to know that like never again can we create that magic together, because, you know, it was always the fallback. You know, if you're going through a career slouch, call up Corey. We'll come up with an idea and we'll do something together and, you know, get everybody all excited all over again. So it's really sad to know that that possibility is gone, especially with the idea that he had to do another trilogy for License to Drive, to turn that into a trilogy, because he had a really great idea and he actually took the time to write a 30-page treatment, and we were en route to try and set that up at 20th Century Fox and turn that into the next franchise, but that'll never happen either.
And the hair, you mentioned that earlier, but I don't think we all got it. The hair
Strand.
stuff. Yeah. Strand.
Yeah, the Strand represents both Edgar Frog and Corey, but it's about, for me, it's about being a lone soldier and survival, because as Edgar Frog, I had to grow all of my hair out one length to shoot the last film, because that was kind of, he's, you know, supposed to be kind of disheveled and, you know, been through the ringer and lost everything that was dear to him. So he just kind of has his hair like all over and in his face. And then when we get into the action part of the movie, I tie on the bandana and put all the hair back, and this one piece falls out, which became on the set kind of known as the Strand. It was kind of this inside joke. But it also became like through, I guess, being a warrior and a soldier in the film, spending 2 months in Africa on my own, completely disconnected from the rest of the world, from Hollywood, from my family, from everything. In that time period, getting to Africa, I literally lost 7 people that were dear to me, including Michael Jackson, my grandfather, and several close friends that weren't mentioned in the press. And of course, Corey and I were very separated. He wasn't gone yet, but we were separated at that time. And I felt like I was completely isolated. I remember sitting there on a rock in the middle of Africa, looking out over the ocean. I was literally at the furthest tip of Africa, and I was on a rock, and I was going, man, I'm here in this world alone. You know, I always had all these people that I've lost in this last year. You have to realize help shape and identify who I was to the public. You know, people think of Michael Jackson, they think of me. People think of Corey Haim, they think of me. You know, these people helped build what I became as an entity in this business, and now they're all gone. And so that means I really have to find a way to stand alone. And that was really that transitional point. And I went through a divorce. So I also lost my wife and my kid being around every day. And it was like, here I was stripped naked. I was bare. I was raw. So the emotion that you see in the film is all very genuine and very real. It came from a very real place. So at that point I thought, you know what? Even though I got to cut my hair off and return to normal life and whatever job I do next, I'm going to keep this, because it represents that time of being alone and being unified as one. And then Corey died shortly after, which was even more reason to keep it around. There you go.
You mentioned just in passing in the panel about the original Lost Boys sequel that was never actually made. Can you talk a little bit about that and why it was never made?
Well, I think it was going to be called The Lost Girls. There was a script which I believe the original writers from the original film wrote, and I believe it's actually out there in cyberspace somewhere, so the diehard fans have actually found a way to find it and read it, and it's out there. I was told by Richard Donner and Joel Schumacher back in like 1988, 89, hey, we got this great, sequel. We're going to do a sequel to Lost Boys. It's going to involve opening scene. This was what I remember. Opening scene, airplane lands on a runway. You see the asphalt. We see the tires screech. The door opens. See some military boots walking out. Pan up, and it's the Frog Brothers. And we pan back even further, and you see Capitol building behind them. And that was the idea. The idea was, the Lost Boys had moved now to Washington, D.C., and the Frog Brothers were continuing their adventures. So, and then there was the other idea of the Lost Girls. So I know that both of those ideas were very prominent at one point and were both heavily being considered as the actual sequel by Warner Brothers. But, I remember I was always kind of like, Lost Girls? Really? Really? Doesn't work for me. So that one I was a little bit, kind of disappointed in. But when I heard the idea of us going and killing political vampires in Washington, that was a solid idea. But even more so, I think it kind of sparked at that time in my mind the idea of like, the Frog Brothers continuing their adventures and following them instead of following the Emersons. That's an interesting take. Wouldn't have thought about it on my own, but when it was presented to me in that way, I went, you know what, there's something there, because they are kind of action heroes, and as they get older and as they develop, I could really see them being, the official vampire hunters. Why not? So I think it kind of sparked the interest very early on, even though it never got made that way.
When you were making the original film, did you have any idea that it was going to go on to be so well loved for such a long time, and 20 years later you'd be making new movies?
No. You never know, like life. You never know what's going to come of anything, I mentioned earlier one of my favorite films that I've done in my career, which is called The Birthday, which, received all this critical acclaim and won awards at festivals. And when I was making this movie, I was like, this is it. This is my Tour de France. This is, my one moment of shining, pride of the best character I've ever created, the best film I've ever done, artistically intriguing, so much depth, so much meaning behind it. We were all artists on that set. Nobody's ever seen it. And so you never know. I really believed that was going to be it for me. Like, that was the one. It was going to win Oscars, and it never got released theatrically or at all in the U.S. It never got any U.S. distribution. And I'm still hoping that it one day finds its way, because the writer and director of that film has now gone on to do his next film, which is Agnosia, which is now receiving tons of praise and awards around the world, because he's a genius, and it's a great film. But the point being, you never know what to expect.
Right.
With the original Lost Boys, we knew that we were doing something special. We knew having, the likes of Richard Donner and Joel Schumacher, and even the DP, Michael Chapman, who was one of the most esteemed cinematographers in the history of American cinema. Knowing that we had all of that, and Kiefer Sutherland and Diane Wiest, there were some fairly big names in it, and then the collaboration of Corey and I. We knew it was going to be popular, and we knew it would be a hit,
Right.
because we had all of that going into it. But that said, to me, I was kind of like, why is everybody so excited about it? It's like a vampire movie. These things don't do very well. Hello. So I don't think any of us thought that it would have the legacy that it ended up having. I think that we all thought, yeah, it's a hit, and if we do a sequel right away, there's some business there. But I don't think anybody thought it will lie dormant for 20 years and then come back and be more popular than ever.
Right.